Welcome to the latest episode of the SCU show. I'm your host, SCU, episode number 67. What a first week for the USFL. It was a lot of fun to watch. I was a little concerned about the attendance for the last three games. So the first one, obviously Birmingham and New Jersey, it was a packed stadium. But I'm not going to come on here to this episode, at least, and start talking about, I'm so concerned about the attendance that we saw in the last three games of the weekend. It was Easter weekend. And the last game was even moved because of weather. So I'm not even going to worry about, any of that stuff. So let's just get to the action for what it was, minus the attendance. Let's break down week one of the USFL weekend. Or the USFL season. New Jersey Generals and the Birmingham Stallions kicked it all off on Saturday. It was a very exciting game, very good game. Came down to the wire. Birmingham scored the game winner with just about 30-some-odd seconds left. The backup quarterback ran in for a touchdown. They won 28-24. Very good game. Or was it? Was it that very good of a game? Or did one team dominate for just about the whole thing? New Jersey absolutely dominated this game. 100% dominated this game. In every statistical way you can think of. 408 total yards. Birmingham had 277. New Jersey had 222 rush yards. Birmingham had 72. Luis Perez, who took over the starting quarterback position from Ben Holmes, who was released due to injury, he threw 2 touchdowns in this game, and their tight end had over 100 yards receiving. So really, New Jersey, this was their game to win. Like, they dominated the entire game. However, not unfortunately, it was Birmingham that came out with the victories. But really, that was New Jersey's game to lose. Like, they dominated, like I said, they dominated every aspect. They absolutely should have won that game. And they just didn't. They didn't win the game. They couldn't finish it. I'm based on that first game from New Jersey for the Generals, they are one of the better teams in the league. I think they're going to have a great season. They just got to learn. I always say this. It's not how you start. It's how you finish. And the New Jersey Generals obviously didn't finish the game strong. You got to do better than that, Jersey. If you're going to dominate the stat sheets against the team, you got to dominate the scoreboard as well. They should have won that game. Birmingham came out to win. I mean, it was good for the Birmingham, Alabama crowd, which is where the first season's being played. At least they got that. Now, this game was a huge surprise. Big surprise for me. Because I had Michigan as the second-ranked team in my preseason power rankings. Houston was dead last. They weren't at the bottom of the list, basically. They weren't dead last. The Breakers were. We'll get to that in a moment. I did not expect Houston to go into this game against Michigan and absolutely dominate. Did not expect that at all. It was 17-0 at one point. 17-0 Houston led the Michigan Panthers. I mean, they dominated the first half. The wide open touchdown catch at the end. They forced a couple fumbles from each quarterback. Shea Patterson, that 95-yard scoop and score for the Gamblers. Huge surprise. But like I said on the USFL preview show, Kevin Sumlin, he's had success in everywhere he's went. At Texas A&M. At Arizona. Success in both places. I said if the Gamblers are going to be a successful team, it's going to be on the shoulders of Kevin Sumlin. And lo and behold, that team was just spectacular in the first game against Michigan. Meanwhile, something else I brought up on the USFL preview show, if Paxton Lynch got the opportunity to get out there on the field, he should take advantage of it. I was hoping he would take advantage of it. Well, I'm never making that mistake again. I should have known Paxton Lynch is not even an NFL bust, because obviously he was an NFL bust for the Broncos. This man is a football bust. God, what a terrible performance by Paxton Lynch. He fumbled the ball twice. He was sacked multiple times. Terrible performance by Paxton Lynch. Obviously, this was Shea Patterson's team moving forward. I tried to buy into the Paxton Lynch thing, and I'm not doing that again. That was a terrible decision on my part, And I apologize to the Michigan Panthers fans. And as Todd Mintz mentioned, I know he talked about this on Inside the Arena and in our group chat. I talked so much about how Jeff Fisher, he won a Super Bowl with the Titans. He was 1 yard away from winning the Super Bowl. From tying the Super Bowl anyway. Could have potentially won a Super Bowl. Had so much success as an NFL head coach. And then, like I said, 17-0 at the end of the half against the Houston Gamblers. So maybe Jeff Fisher's not the coach that I thought he was going to be. Maybe Houston's just that good with Kevin Sumlin. I don't know. But we're going to find out next week. We'll get to that in a little bit. But again, huge disappointment for week 1. The Michigan did come back, by the way. They did score the final 12 points at the end. They only lost by 5, and they were that close to winning the game. Shea Patterson chucked the ball into the end zone. The pass was caught, but the receiver had one foot out of bounds. The other one was out. And unfortunately, this isn't college football. This is like the NFL. 2 feet in is a catch. They were that close to actually winning this game. But to go down 17-0, both quarterbacks struggled. I need to see better from Jeff Fisher. I need to see better from the Michigan Panthers. That was bad. The Breakers, they were on the bottom of my rankings list. Then that defense, what a defense! What a performance by that Breakers defense against Philadelphia in the first game. That pick six by, I think it was Trayvon Diggs, something like that. Trayvon Diggs. That was a very heads-up play by him. Very excellent play. He read Byron Scott the entire play, read his eyes, watched where he was going, watched where he was looking, and he immediately jumped on it and made the pick six. And Breakers got the win of the Stars. So another thing I got wrong. I was 1-3 this week on picks, by the way. I obviously got the Panthers wrong. I got the Generals wrong, and again here I got the Stars wrong because I thought Byron Scott was going to lead the Stars to victory over a team with a coach that actually had never even coached before. I learned on the broadcast. They talked about how Larry Fedora had never been a coach or something like that before. This was his first professional coaching game. Well, it was a good performance for him. I give him that. But I'm surprised that the Breakers were able to do what they did and beat the Stars. The one game I got right was moved from Sunday night to Monday night due to the weather. Tampa Bay dominated Pittsburgh in every aspect of the game. That defense was strong. The first drive for the Bandits, everybody was just straight up wide open. That Pittsburgh defense could not get to anybody. Every wide receiver, every pass play for Jordan Ta'amu, every receiver, every tight end, every running back, such wide open space. Which is why it was so easy for Tampa to just go right down the field and score the first touchdown. That defense then dominated, no surprise there. It was an absolute dominant performance by the Bandits. Like I said, this was my favorite team coming in. Todd Haley being the head coach, Pepper Johnson being the defensive coordinator. Of course, this time with the XFL with the Wildcats. Jordan Ta'amu, quarterback. It was meant to be for Tampa. It was meant to be that the Tampa Bay Bandits got a win in week 1. And they showed up and showed out against the Maulers to get that win. Alright, so that's your USFL week 1 breakdown. I'll wipe my glasses real quick. I hope the camera... See, when I record this episode, the episode of the SCU show, I can't see what I'm looking at because my front camera, like how you do take selfies, it's terrible because my phone is so broken. I need to get a new phone ASAP. But things are in the works. Let me just say that. More to come in the next week or so. Alright, let's get to a little NFL stuff here because there was actually one story here that I heard and I was like, oh my God, please no. Please let this not happen. So Baker Mayfield went on a friend's podcast. I have no idea what the name of the podcast was or anything like that. But him and his friend rambled on for 90 minutes about he was disrespected by the Browns, all this other stuff. And then he also mentioned that Seattle was his most likely team that he's going to play for in 2022. Please, God, no. Baker Mayfield is a talented quarterback. We saw that at Oklahoma. We've seen that with Cleveland. His first game, stepping in for Tyrod Taylor. Big Thursday night, beat the Jets, come from behind, I mean, he's even won a playoff game. I don't remember the last time a Cleveland Browns quarterback won a playoff game. I don't remember. Back in like the early 2000s, I'm pretty sure that was it. Might have been earlier than that. Before then, I don't even know. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game for the Browns, which we, in my generation, never thought we would even see. Kind of like how the government makes fun of the Cowboys for not getting to a Super Bowl. So Baker has the potential. Unfortunately for Baker, there's just no market for him. And he talks about going to Seattle. I can picture him going to Seattle in my head, and I'm like, please don't let him go to Seattle. I mean, people are going to think I'm stupid or think I'm crazy for saying this. But if I got the choose between Drew Lock or Baker Mayfield, I'm kind of aiming toward Drew Lock. Now, either way, I think this is like a 1-year thing with the Seahawks. I think they're going to get a quarterback in next year's draft, not this year's draft, next year's draft. So at least for this year, I would not go for Baker Mayfield. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'd rather Drew Lock. I just don't think Baker would be a good fit. Seattle, I don't think it would work out too well. I just don't like the idea of Baker Mayfield going to Seattle. However, there is another team that is in talks about getting. But I saw something about that he's been talking to another team. That's the Carolina Panthers. Now that I have no problem with whatsoever, because the Panthers, unlike the Seahawks, it seems like just slightly more. The Panthers know what they're actually doing when it comes to quarterbacking and their future. With the Seahawks, you don't know what you're going to get next year's draft. Like, you're going to have Drew Lock this year in 2022. You're going to see what happens with that. And then what? You don't know what's going to happen. Pete Carroll could retire. A bunch of things can happen in Seattle. Carolina, Matt Rule. I've heard Matt Rule's on the hot seat. Why? Why would we put Matt Rule on the hot seat? There's no reason for that. Because this year you're going to tank, pretty much. Next year you're going to you might even draft a quarterback this year. They might draft Malik Willis. I'm seeing that in a lot of mock drafts. The Panthers can go for Malik Willis. Let him sit a year behind Baker Mayfield. And then 2023, Malik Willis could be your guy in Carolina. I think that makes perfect sense. I actually like that idea. I don't like the idea of Baker Mayfield going to Seattle. So, if I'm the Panthers, and I don't know if this might have been just something I saw on Facebook, but it might be true. They're looking to talk to Baker Mayfield about striking a deal or something like that around there. If that is the case, I think it makes much more sense to him going to Seattle, and I think it would be a better fit, at least for the 2022 season. Moving forward, I mean, like I said, I think the Panthers might go Malik Willis in the draft, this year's draft. Let him sit a year, sit behind Baker Mayfield, and who knows, maybe we'll see something like we saw with the Niners last year, where Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, and Trey Lance stepped in and won a game. But we might see that with the Panthers and Malik Willis this year. That'd be interesting. But by the way, next week, a lot of NFL draft stuff. We're going to talk our top 10 players, quarterback matchmakers, like which quarterbacks should go to which teams. We're going to be talking about, we're going to do a top 10. I don't do trades. I'm just going to be like, oh, the Jaguars pick this guy, the Lions pick this guy. So stay tuned next week. We're going to have a big show for you. It's going to be exciting. All right, so the NBA playoffs are here. As of the recording of this video, Sixers are about to go up 3-0 on the Raptors. The Warriors are up 2-0 on the Nuggets. The Heat dominated the Hawks. A lot going on first round of the NBA playoffs. And I wanted to do a preview of some of the first round games, but last time I recorded a podcast, we were just in the middle of the play-in game, so I didn't know who was going to make it. Like, I thought the Clippers. I had no idea the Clippers were going to miss the playoffs altogether. I'm not expecting that at all. But they didn't have Kawhi. They didn't have Paul George. And like I said last week, the Clippers have a bright future. So let's just hold the brakes. They'll be fine. They'll be back. Both of those players will be back next year. Hopefully, fully healthy. But what I wanted to do is rank in each conference, every team in each conference pretty much. Not all 6 teams at once. Both conferences, 8 through 1. So here we go. We'll start with the Eastern Conference. And we'll start with number 8. It's Atlanta. The Hawks. I think this is a 9... What were they? 9 seed? 10 seed? One of those? Now they're playing the Miami Heat, the number 1 seed in the East. The first game, they got their you-know-what's whooped by the Heat. I think the Heat are going to make mincemeat out of the Hawks and advance to the second round. So the Hawks, number 8. Number 7, it's Chicago. I mean, I watched highlights from that first game against Milwaukee, who, by the way, will also make mincemeat of their opponent to move on to the second round. Bulls shot terribly in this game. I think DeMar DeRozan was like 6 for 25 from the field. Terrible. The Bulls are not ready to make a run in the playoffs. It's going to be another year of them making a first-round exit. Bulls, number 7. Number 6, Toronto. They have a talented team, but they also have a lot of injuries, and they're facing a potential MVP candidate in Joel Embiid. And it's just a bad matchup for the Raptors in this one. Sixers will eliminate them, and we'll see what happens in the future with the Raptors. I think they also have a bright future, but they just ran into an MVP candidate right now in Joel Embiid. Unfortunately, Raptors are number 6. Number 5, Philadelphia. I know I just talked about how Philadelphia, Joel Embiid just won the scoring title. That's cool. That's great. He could be MVP. Awesome. This team isn't ready to make a playoff run either. Let's go up against potentially the Celtics or even the Heat. There are better teams in the East than the Sixers, and that's why they're number 5. Number 4 is Boston. Still missing Robert Williams. Big piece missing there for Boston. Now, they did beat the Nets by the skin of their hairs. Jason Tatum layup as time expired in Game 1. But a lot of people are picking the Nets to beat them Celtics in that series. I hope not, because I would like to go to Boston, about an hour away from where I am right now, and see a Celtics playoff game for myself in person. That would be very cool. Just not doing it in the first round. Maybe the second, or maybe even the conference finals. Hint, nudge, potentially. But anyway, Celtics, number 4. Number 3, it's the Nets. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nets beat the Celtics in this series. Now that Kyrie can play every game, not just in Boston. He can also play in Brooklyn because the mandates for vaccines have been lifted in New York City. And we've seen what Kyrie's done since he's been back. We've seen Kyrie since he wasn't back. He wasn't able to play in Brooklyn. We saw him on the road. Remember that one game against the Magic? He had like 41 points in one quarter. It was an amazing game. Kyrie is still a talented player, even though he could play in New York because he was vaccinated. And the Nets, like I said, bright future. They could even make a playoff run this year. They could even, and call me crazy, the Nets could eliminate the Heat eventually in the playoffs. That's number 3. Number 2 is Milwaukee. Defending champions. Giannis is still there. Chris Middleton. Still a very talented team. They're going to make mincemeat of the Bulls. They'll probably make mincemeat of the next opponent. This team's going to cruise to the conference finals. And then they'll meet the number 1 team in the East. And the number 1 team in my ranking for the East is the Miami Heat. I love what the Heat have. I love what the Heat have. Jimmy Butler, outstanding player. Tyler Harrell's outstanding player. Duncan Robinson just went 8 for 9 from 3 in Game 1 against the Hawks. I mean, the Heat Twitter, like literally the Heat's Twitter social media account, keep talking about white heat. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think the Heat are the team that and it's either Heat or Nets that are going to go to the NBA Finals for the East. But right now, the Heat are the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. And there you go. So that's your 8-1 for the East. Let's not waste any time here. Let's go 8-1 to the West. Number 8, it's the Pelicans, who again should not even be in the playoffs right now. They absolutely should not be. They beat the Clippers with no Kawhi and no PG-13, unfortunately. The Pelicans don't have Zion. He might even be there next year. So this is not a playoff team next year. Don't be surprised if they get swept by the Suns in the first round. Pelicans are number 8. Number 7 is the Denver Nuggets. Luka Doncic missed Game 2 and Game 1. Obviously, the Nuggets. I'm sorry, my team's mixed up. Nuggets did have 2-0 to the Warriors. The Warriors they have the most talented team in the NBA remaining. They're down 2-0 at the recording of the video. Don't be surprised if they wind up getting swept by the Warriors. Don't be surprised. Nuggets number 7. Number 6 is the T-Wolves. I like what the T-Wolves have. Andrew Wiggins had a big play-on tournament. They have a talented team around them, led by Andrew Wiggins, among others. But this is not a team to make a playoff run. Number 7. T-Wolves number 6, excuse me. Number 5 is the Dallas Mavericks. If Luka returns, this team's going to they'll make this next round. I think they could beat the Jazz if Luka does return. And I think that the Mavs could give even the Grizzlies or the Warriors a little bit of trouble if Luka is there. So the Mavs number 5. Number 4, I do have the Jazz, just because they won Game 1. And they were supposed to win Game 2, but they didn't. They couldn't get the job done against Luka-less Dallas. So I don't know what to say about the Jazz. They're a talented team. And they really should be up 2-0 as of recording this video. I'll have number 4 for right now. Number 3 is Golden State. A lot of time missed for Draymond, Clay, and Steph. I think they played. I saw some about 11 minutes together during the regular season. Is that bad? That's not good. The Warriors, I mean, obviously they have the chemistry because they've won championships together. But is this team going to get past the next 2 teams on my list? I don't know. Warriors number 3. Number 2 is the Grizzlies. I said it last week. We've got to take the Grizzlies more seriously, ladies and gentlemen. We just got to. We have to take this team more seriously. I mean, they were 22 without John Moran in the regular season. Now this team's going to obviously I think they're clearly going to make a deep playoff run. If they don't get to the NBA Finals, they'll be in the Western Conference Finals against the Suns. It might be a Game 7 game series. Let's take the Grizzlies more seriously, as I am, because they're number 2 in my Western Conference rankings. And number 1, the best team in the NBA is the Phoenix Suns. If the Suns don't win the NBA Finals this year, there's something wrong. There's something seriously wrong. They've been the best team all year. The only team, I think they're the only team with 80 wins. I might have to fact check that. But they have not just the best record in the Western Conference. They have the best record in the NBA. By the time the end of the regular season came, the Suns had a 8-game lead over the number 2 team in the West, and that's the Grizzlies. An 8-game lead over the Grizzlies. That's how dominant the Suns were during the regular season. And Chris Paul is on his way to his first and probably only NBA championship. Suns number 1 in the West. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. A lot of lists here on the SCU show, episode number 67. We just gave you our top, our 8 through 1 in the East, 8 through 1 in the West. And guess what? Let's do another 8 through 1. USFL Power Rankings, week number 1. Number 8, this one hurts so much. It's Michigan. Paxton Lynch, you are terrible. You should just retire from football and do something else with your life. Whatever it is, I wish you continued success, of course. But you're not a football quarterback, my man. You're just not. You had 2 turnovers, you were sacked multiple times. You are terrible, and your team was terrible. Number 8, Michigan Panthers. Number 7, Pittsburgh. I would have put them number 8 because they only scored 3 points in their first game. But they, on defense, got a couple turnovers from the Bandits. They picked off 2 passes from Jordan Ta'amu. At least they got that. I mean, come on. At least Pittsburgh got that. Their defense did something. Michigan's defense did close to nothing. Pittsburgh Mall is number 7. Number 6, got to give to New Orleans. Their defense was stellar, and they beat the Stars, and that's beautiful. But their offense was just as atrocious as Paxton Lynch. The Rakers started 0-for-7 on 3rd down. Not kidding. 0-for-7 on 3rd down. Is that bad? That's not good. Breakers number 6. Number 5, Philadelphia. They had a decent game. Obviously, the pick 6 was not Byron Scott's fault. It was all on Trayvon Diggs, or whatever his name is. Javon Diggs. You get the point. The Stars didn't have a bad game. They just ran into a very stellar defense in New Orleans. Philadelphia number 5. Number 4 is the Stallions. The only reason they're number 4 is because they actually won their game. They were dominated in every other aspect against New Jersey, and they should not have won that game. However, New Jersey doesn't know how to finish games, apparently. And Birmingham got the win in week 1 with their home crowd in attendance. Birmingham, number 4. Number 3 is New Jersey Generals. They didn't get the win, but they dominated. Luis Perez, former AAF quarterback, playing the XFL with the Battlehawks. He threw a couple touchdowns in this game, including the first one in league history. So congratulations to Luis Perez. Congratulations to the Generals on a hell of a game. Jersey, represent. Let's go win a game next week. We'll get to that in a little bit. New Jersey, number 3. Number 2, Tampa Bay. Just when we expected Tampa Bay to be what they were in week 1. But after going up 17-0, they didn't score again the rest of the game. I think they went scoreless in the second half. Gotta do better than that. If you're going to be a championship caliber team, Tampa, but you are number 2. Number 1, again, I'm surprised in doing this. Houston Gamblers is number 1 team. Kevin Sumlin, we talked about it already, talk about it again. Had success at Texas A&M and Arizona. Now here he is. His defense absolutely dominated Michigan and Shea Patterson, and they were up 17-0 at one point, and they held on for the victory. And they are the number 1 team in the USFL Week 1 Power Rankings. Good stuff again. Good stuff. Very surprised that I had to put Michigan, who I had being in the championship game, number 8 in our rankings. But we can do. And let's close out this week's episode of the SCU show. Let's preview week number 2. So this week 2 kicks off with the Panthers playing the Jersey Generals. And I think Michigan bounces back. If the Jersey Generals if they dominate a team such as Birmingham and still lose, what are they going to do against Jeff Fisher, Shea Patterson, and that Michigan team, who almost beat the top-ranked, our power rankings, the top-ranked Gamblers? They came that close to defeating the Gamblers. I'll take the Panthers to send New Jersey to 0-2. Pittsburgh will host Philadelphia. Big game I think this game's on Fox. Noon Eastern on Saturday. Big game. I'm picking the upset, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking Pittsburgh over Philadelphia. Again, Pittsburgh's defense, they showed a little something. And, Philadelphia already struggled against another defense, so who's to say they won't struggle against the Maulers' defense? I think Philadelphia goes to 0-2, and the Maulers get their first win over their cross-state rival, in-state rival? Yeah, in-state rival, the Keystone State Battle, which, again, is the only good enough nickname for a rivalry in this league. Gamblers host, this is going to be an interesting game, because you had the Stallions, who were dominated statistically, but they still won the game against New Jersey. Now they're going to play Houston and Kevin Sumlin and that strong defense. I think Houston just dominates them. I think Houston blows them out. Birmingham was dominated against the Generals. They're going to be dominated more against Houston, and the Gamblers are going to go to 2-0 in the season. And Kevin Sumlin's going to continue to show us what a great coach he really is. And the final game, Sunday on NBC, Tampa Bay and New Orleans. That's going to be an interesting game, because you saw what Tampa Bay did. They threw a couple picks against Pittsburgh, and they only scored in the first half. They didn't score in the second half. In New Orleans, you saw the defense against Philadelphia. They were a very great defense. It's going to be a close game, but I got to go with Tampa. I had them win the championship. I got to go with Tampa, getting the win here, and going to 2-0 on the season. And with that, we are done. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This has been episode number 67 of the SCU